Is Jon Jones cleared of steroid use? That is the question. That is the thumbnail. That is probably the reason you clicked on this video. Well, according to Jon Jones, he is. He tweeted that earlier because USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Association, have kind of changed some of their thresholds when it comes to testing certain things. And in the mind of Jon Jones, and perhaps the court of public opinion, he may be cleared from those steroid allegations that he has on his record. Now, here is what Jones tweeted. He put, "I feel officially cleared. There will be no asterisk next to any of my performances. It's good the rest of the world can see what I've known this whole time. My only advantage over my competition has been pure hard work." So, of course, Jones is celebrating this. And, of course, Jon Jones returns next week when he takes on Ciryl Gane for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship of the world. And if you saw my video that I did recently, Jon Jones, for me, is probably the greatest of all time and still right now the pound-for-pound #1, in my humble opinion. Now, of course, tough fight against Ciryl Gane. Not going to be easy, but an even tougher fight against the court of public opinion. Now, we're not here to talk about some of the other things that Jones has been involved with, but we're talking specifically about some of these charges. Sadly for Jon, he's been involved in steroid or drug misuse allegations a number of times. Now, the reason for this video here is that USADA, they have said that from now on, anything under 100 picograms is not considered a failed test. Remember all this talk of picograms back in the day when he tested positive? I think it was 2017. There was all this talk of picograms.
Next question, please. Thank you.
Nobody had heard of picograms before. Well, a picogram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram, and Jon was found to have less than 25 picograms in his system. As I say, you sort of raise the bar now. Anything less than 100, you're good to go. Jones had 25, so that wouldn't have popped today, okay? So let's have a little history, and I apologize, Jon, if you're watching this. I'm not trying to drag up old dirt. I'm really not trying to do that. We're trying to see if you're cleared from steroid allegations, and I cannot wait for the fight next week. But the history all started in 2015. UFC 182 versus Daniel Cormier, a pre-fight urine sample. He tested positive for cocaine. The results were not fully processed until after the fight. Now, technically, the Nevada State Athletic Commission had no authority to test Jon more than 30 days before the fight. And as a person that was tested many times by USADA, they're not looking for recreational drugs. And if it's 30 days before, you know, cocaine is not going to have an effect. In fact, it's out of the system within 24 to 48 hours, 48 hours, I believe. I ain't no expert on that stuff, but still, Jones for that was fined $25,000. And he went on to say, listen, I am not a frequent user. I made a dumb mistake and I got caught. Okay, fair enough. You know, no one's perfect. And a lot of people have used drugs and made mistakes. Then he checked into a drug rehab and then he checked back out, though, only after one night, which ruffled a few feathers and annoyed a few people. So, fast forward, UFC 200 before a scheduled main event, July 2016 versus Daniel Cormier. Remember, right before the fight, the day of the weigh-in, I do believe the fight was called off and Anderson Silva stepped in and Daniel Cormier defeated him. Now, on this occasion, just before UFC 200, Jones sadly tested positive for two substances banned by USADA. Clomiphene, an anti-estrogen substance, and letrozole, an aromatase inhibitor. And he was banned from competition for 1 year. Now, clomiphene, it's on the banned USADA list. I don't know what it does. Letrozole, an aromatase inhibitor. Don't know what they are, but it's on the banned list. So listen, if it's on the banned list, you can't ingest it. Now, Jon was banned for 1 year after that. However, he was found not to be a drug cheat after arbitration with USADA. Because USADA did some tests and they found that tadalafil is an erectile dysfunctional medication, which Jones said, listen, yeah, I used that. I bought some dick pills from the gas station, and that is how it got into his body. So yes, you know, ultimately he was found not to be a drug cheat. Then, of course, it doesn't end there. UFC 214 versus Daniel Cormier, August 2017. Now, this one was a shame because it was one of Jon Jones' best performances against Daniel Cormier. I mean, that fight, that rivalry, the first one was extremely close. Jones got the decision. They met again in Anaheim, California, 2017. And it was an epic back and forth battle. DC was doing very well. Both men were landing a lot of good shots. And it was a head kick in round 3 that was the beginning of the end. And it got the job done. And it was a sensational performance. And it put to bed had this crazy rivalry. And then after that, DC very, very honestly and emotionally said, listen, there is no rivalry because I've lost both times. However, after that, he tested positive for trace amounts of oral turinabol, which is an anabolic steroid. So that fight was overturned to a no contest. Now, after the fact, an independent arbiter found that the amount was actually so tiny that there was absolutely no performance advantage. However, listen, if you ask me, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, listen, it was in the system, okay? And the evidence apparently leads USADA to believe that the violation was not intentional. Jones believes that he took a tainted supplement and that was to blame. But he couldn't find out which supplement it was that was at fault. Now, Jeff Nowitzki, who spearheads the USADA operation for the UFC, I had a conversation with him and he told me all about tainted supplements. I'm always very, very dubious anytime somebody talks about tainted supplements. I don't believe it. Of course, it's the easy thing to go to, but Jeff Nowitzki actually educated me one night at a bar over a pint of beer. He was telling me that these factories, these companies, these manufacturing plants where they actually process and make supplements, steroids, whatever you want to call them, they'll make one batch of goods, shall we say, and they will be shipped off to a certain place. And then they start making a completely different thing. They use the same machines to manufacture them, but they don't always clean them down effectively. And sometimes when they don't clean them in the first few batches or the first few tubs, sometimes there can be trace elements from the last batch of drugs, steroids, supplements, whatever it was that they were making. Sometimes other batches can get contaminated, if that makes sense. So he actually said, no, sometimes the tainted supplement, there is truth to that. So if that is the case, then again, you got to feel for him or anybody else. Now, granted, I'm not a guy that makes excuses for people that take steroids. I think if you take steroids knowingly and you're found to be cheating 100%, then shame on you without no shadow of a doubt. Kind of like TJ Dillashaw. Hate to bring him in, hate to throw him under a bus, but there was no defending that. Okay, there was absolutely no defending that, and he held his hand up, to be fair. Now, unfortunately, that isn't the end of the story when it comes to the positive test, because we all know the story, what happened. UFC 232 versus Alexander Gustafsson, December 2018. What happened was a pre-fight test showed the same trace amounts of turinabol from that fight in 2017. In other words, Jon Jones tested positive for the same drug which he popped for in 2017, which was UFC 214, due to what they called pulsing of the M3 metabolite. Now, as we know, the UFC stood by him and they moved the entire pay-per-view event from Las Vegas to California on just a week's notice when the Nevada Athletic Commission actually refused to license him. That all sounds very, very complicated. And again, no smoke without fire, and a lot of dick pills and a lot of talk and things like that, and no smoke without fire, tainted supplements and all the rest of it. Now, as I said at the start of the video, USADA has changed the measuring stick. Jon Jones tested positive for 25 picograms, which is next to nothing, which apparently the science says give you absolutely no athletic advantage whatsoever. And now it's changed to 100 picograms. So in a way, you can't blame Jon for feeling vindicated, because had the barriers, had the thresholds been what they are today, then he wouldn't have tested positive, and a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened, and perhaps his legacy wouldn't have been as tainted. Now, of course, that doesn't clear everything. It doesn't clear all the wrongdoing, but, it's true. The picogram stuff would not have happened. But let's take a look. Listen, Jon Jones, everybody knows this guy, or a lot of people claim he's the pound for pound number one. And I would sign off on that. Of course, Islam's amazing. Volkanovski's incredible. And there's other people that have, claims to be the GOAT. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre. There's a few others as well. But listen, when you look at Jon Jones, we know the list of who he's beaten is a who's who of mixed martial arts throughout multiple generations, okay? And he's beaten them all. Tapped out Rampage Jackson, choked out Lyoto Machida, he just, Rashad Evans, Vitor Belfort, took out Shogun to become the youngest ever champion of the world. I mean, what this man has accomplished is just unbelievable. It really is. And I don't think it's fair to point at all that greatness and say that it was due to steroids. I really don't, But of course, listen, he has to hold his hand up. Now, of course, he's not holding his hand up. He's saying, I'll say it again. He said, I feel officially cleared. There will be no asterisk next to any of my performances. It's good to see that the rest of the world can see what I've known this whole time. My only advantage over my competition was good old-fashioned hard work. He never said good old-fashioned. I stuck that bit in. So, going forward, Jones may seek to overturn the no contest result in the Daniel Cormier fight. But the reality is he did fail that test under the thresholds that were in place at that time. So I'm saying a lot of stuff there. I am not wiping the slate clean of Jon Jones, but it does murky the waters. And if you are on the side of the fence, which is defending Jon Jones, then your case just got a lot stronger. Certainly if I was Jon Jones, I'd feel the exact same way. As I say, generally no smoke without fire. So what do you think? Because no one really knows. No one really knows. The reality is there was things in his system, regardless how small it was, regardless how minuscule and tiny and almost non-beneficial it was to his system, it did get there. I explained some of the processes which may cause a contaminated supplement. We also know now that it doesn't give any athletic performance boost. So it's a very, very tricky situation. And if, let's just imagine a world where Jon didn't take any of these things, didn't do any of that stuff, then you got to feel sorry for the guy. You really do. And he wouldn't be the first person to say that he took a contaminated supplement. Also, he wouldn't be the first person, if he is lying, to lie about that, So it's hard to know what to say. The only thing we can trust is the science, but the science now, the threshold has changed. So is Jon Jones cleared of steroid use? I don't know. That is down to the court of public opinion. And that is the message and the question that I am asking you. So I'll ask you again, like it says on the thumbnail, is Jon Jones cleared of steroid use? Because those are the facts, that is the situation, and that is where we are. I don't know. I don't think so. But still, who cares? Him versus Ciryl Gane is an incredible matchup. There ain't going to be no picograms inside, or there better not be. That's a goddamn fact. I better not hear any picograms or anything like that, because I cannot wait. The return of Jon Jones has taken far too long, and the sport of mixed martial arts is a better place with him involved. Okay, so there it is. There's the video. You tell me in the comments. Is he cleared? Is he cleared? I don't know. It's a tricky situation. It's a tricky question, but I want to know from you in the comments. Subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you soon.